first place, you do things mostly for a rather big part by intuition. So you don't use reason. I'm going to choose that or that way. It's where you feel yourself at home, where you can develop yourself, in which direction you can tell the things you maybe have to tell. And I think that in this very chaotical world, when I was young, I realized myself that in a certain way you have to choose many, to lean, to stand on the tradition of the painting of the country. We are living with other. I can tell it more clear. In the Flanders, there was a typical way of painting where you felt the earth of that country. Look at Permeeke and Wouters. And I always admired when I come in a country, when I see Watteau, that's typical French. The Germans are more graphical. Every country has its character. In Breitner, you feel the atmosphere of the brown, deep brown colors of Amsterdam. And so nowadays, maybe it's the American influence, all is more cosmopolite, is grown cosmopolite. And I don't consider that as a earning, as an how do you call that, a good thing. For me, apart from that, I consider that life is so short. I don't am able to deepen my view in painting in the south of Italy, because you have to be born there. You have to be have long time with all the influences, but it's difficult enough life painting. So you can only do if you want to do something good. It's only possible to do it a small part of the big big thing that is art. So Breitner, because you call his name, let's consider Breitner. He did very good and made for me real the Amsterdam atmosphere. Degas made for my eyes forever. It made it impossible for me to paint ballet dancers. He picked the piece. So that I mean.
Well, speaking of ballet dancers, in looking over your oeuvre, I noticed that you painted a lot of circus characters. I know there was another painter that was with Slaughter's, Kees Max, who also liked that. Yeah. Is this kind of a Dutch tradition, the kermis and the circus, or is this something that you just felt?
No, that's not tradition. You give the name of Max, but he was an exception. In Holland, there were German painters, I remember. who painted also circus, Max Beckman. But no, that's no tradition here. No, no. Picasso made beautiful circus in his youth.
Well, what drew you to the circus as something? I noticed you spent quite a long time working on paintings of the circus. Is it something you felt?
What interested me was not. I did it many times. Many times I even traveled with the circus to Belgium. In the piste, what you call piste, but before the act, when the clowns and all the artists are preparing their act, and then they are studying, they are dancing, they are already living in what they are going to do for the public behind the curtains. And that's really beautiful. Then there I did a lot of drawings and things.
Now it also seems, as I look through your paintings, that you've taken some time to paint a lot about orchestras and music, at least during a period of time. Is this something that influences your life, or something that you feel close to?
I did many seasons. I had the opportunity to draw at Concertgebouw rehearsals, and so you are alone in the place with the orchestra, and that I could sit where I wanted. So that was an ideal opportunity to make a lot of things. And I had an exhibition only dedicated to the Concertgebouw.
Now, coming up in the near future, you're going to have an exhibition about a small print shop where you've been working. Could you tell me a little about that and what drew you to this place?
I like, as you may conclude out of my words, that I like a theme in the Concertgebouw or circus, and also this theme of the print shop where I worked years drawing there. It was so that my wife and I, walking in the Spiegelstraat long ago, saw a shop like sometimes you see it more in Paris. A man who is surrounded by his prints or by his paintings and sits there in the middle of it and has become part of what he sells, and it is an enormous amount of things. And there was the man in question in a beautiful light, because behind in the shop there was a second space with a light from above, which gave me the opportunity to paint there, and I asked him for that, and growing habit of drawing there from both sides was for me reason to work there a few years, and I made a lot of drawings, especially, and a few number of paintings. The light of the shop, and especially also the people who came choosing, debating with their wife what print they should choose or not choose, and their attitudes at such choosing.
Now, we spoke earlier of Breitner and his ability to express Amsterdam as a concept and an idea, and a kind of tradition that built out of that. Have there been other influences in your artistic? I know you were friends with the painter from Haarlem that did a lot of aquarelles, Verweij. I know you've painted a lot of paintings of him. Were there certain influences in your life, or people that you worked with, or people that you admired?
Maybe Verweij also. What you say was not possible because you couldn't be a friend of Verweij. He was a very difficult person. But I had to fight to enter at his studio, where I even could paint him. But certainly his way of looking, I felt very near to. And also Rick Wouters, the Belgian painter. But in general, yes, it's that way of looking at things like in a way that nothing stands between you and what you are painting, in that sense that I have no, what the French call idée préconçue. That's I'm not going to somebody or something with an fixed idea on the beforehand. I let myself influence that model or by that model or by that landscape or what it is.
Speaking of landscapes, one of the things that the Dutch are very rightfully famous for are the landscapes. It seems there's a special kind of light that permeates certainly the coastal region that you see from the 17th century on, recurring in the landscape painting. Is this something that has influenced the way you see things?
I didn't much landscape in my life. I think also that maybe the Americans have found a way out of the difficulty that landscape is disappearing. The real nature is diminishing. The nature in a way of the School of the Hague, but a man like Hopper, he found a way out. He painted gas oil stand and people before standing before a jukebox or in a hall with all modern apparatus. But that's complete, like the Americans, with all the objections you can have their own way of looking and working with another nature, with another world, but in the sense the way of Breitner and the way of, like I say, the School of the Hague, that's I have the feeling it's on his retour. So I did some landscape, but we are not anymore the generation of, you can envy it, of Constable who could work in an endless landscape, and I don't think so.
I think at one point in America, you were speaking of America, there was a school of painting. Many of them came from Dusseldorf, Berstadt, and they went to America, and they were so blown away by the light there that they became a school of painting of the light in America with these vast landscapes that they painted. Churchwood, who went into even Central America and painted them. But in Holland here, there has been a long tradition of painting. It's a nation that has painted itself, its history, its morals, its ideas. But they've continued to paint traditional themes, nudes, still lives. Do you see painting as we come into the new millennium, as they would say, the role of painting continuing in a traditional sense, and what makes it timeless for you?
I don't know. That's a very difficult question. Or not a difficult question, but the answer is difficult. Because, of course, every time has its own way of expression. If you see the Russian icons, or how do you say it, icon painting, the way they were painted, or the Roman portraits, the old frescoes, every time finds its own ways of expression with the paint, and I'm sure that now the other ways of expression will come. I'm certain that it doesn't. The final thing will be oil painting on canvas. That's a period of humanity. That's our Western Renaissance world. But maybe with all the modern techniques, there come other means of expression. But there's one way is certain: the man will always need to express themselves, their feelings, to tell things. But the materials and the way of expressing will change, I'm sure.